Welcome, everybody, to episode number 6 of the Hitting Zone podcast, brought to you by Youth Baseball Midwest. Excited about this opportunity. Again, we continue 6 episodes, so it means I'm doing something right for Youth Baseball Midwest. They keep bringing me back, and it's going to help me to continue to come back. If you go to YouTube, Youth Baseball Midwest, put it in your search there, and there's a little subscribe button over there to the right. Click that thing, get notifications of all of our shows. They did a Game 7 recap today that you can find on there, and there's a lot of material, including the man that I have to the left of me, Shane Eames. Maybe a year and some change ago, we got on the show on a Tuesday morning, and we talked hitting, and I'm excited about this one. We've had some guys on here. We've had some social media guys on here. I know that Josh Cathcart is probably going to get on me here because he's not a content creator, the Hitting Done Right.
Yeah, yes, sir.
But we've had him on our show. We had the guy from Top Velocity, Brent Porcio, on the show. And it's been exciting to have some of those guys on here. But you're local. Recently, it's kind of been a little bit of a local legend, at least seeing everybody excitement towards the post of the end of the year. And you got some guys that have been doing well, and I'm excited to have you on the show. So thanks for joining us on this rainy day.
Thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I enjoy my time here, and I'm ready to talk hitting and baseball in general.
Yeah, let's do it. Premier Hitting Development, PhD.
Yes, sir.
Love every part of the marketing tool. Can you explain what Premier Hitting Development is?
Basically, I mean, it's just kind of a catchy deal that I kind of put together, PhD. I call myself maybe the hit doctor a little bit, but I just use this as a platform to put together programs for kids who really want to make a difference and perform at a high level.
Yeah, make a difference. I pay attention. Obviously, we have. I mean, you're older than I am, but we're
a little bit.
Yeah, I'm 44.
50, but who's
counting? We're close.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's close.
Close enough.
We talk hitting a lot, and we talk often about just kind of the mental side of the hitting.
Absolutely.
We did a show where you guys are at, and we worked with Braxton Martinez,
he was now a hitting coach with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Oh, good for him.
Yes.
Good for him. So a PhD,
absolutely.
Teaching.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal,
Something
man.
I'm very proud of. Braxton and I are very close. Braxton was in my wedding a few years ago. I consider him like a second son, and got a great relationship with him. And the sky's the limit for this guy. I mean, he not only performed at a very high level, ended up making it to AAA with the Anaheim Angels, and got an opportunity to extend his career in the game. And I think he's just going to continue to rise. I can really foresee him being a hitting coach in the big leagues within the next 4 or 5 years. I really do.
Man, that's big time. I followed him after we did our show, and then I noticed that he didn't have any opportunities anymore, and I was kind of wondering what he was doing.
He had to make a decision. I mean, when you get to that level, and he was a little bit older, getting into affiliated baseball, he put up really good numbers. It becomes a numbers game, and when you're 27, 28 years old, trying to vie for a big league opportunity, the amount of money invested in him was not near as much as they have with these higher round draft picks, and he saw the writing on the wall. He had opportunities that he could have went and played elsewhere, but he decided he wanted to stay in professional baseball. Got a great opportunity with Tampa Bay Rays. They're a very highly developmental organization, and he's clicked with them, and he's already moved up a couple levels. So I think he'll continue to do that. His attention to detail, he's very meticulous, but it's just his overall personality that connects with players, and he's able to get through them because he's been through the trenches. He's played at very high levels, and he's really come from lower levels of unaffiliated baseball into affiliate baseball, and he's made a good career for himself that I think he's just going to continue to progress in.
Man, that's pretty cool because he's a Fort Small South kid,
Yep.
And just kind of knowing some of his family through Timberland that he's had, connected there. I've got to meet him, and I didn't. Once he kind of was done, I didn't see nothing. I kind of I didn't give up on the kid,
right.
But I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't follow him. And congratulations, Braxton, for that opportunity. Because I think that was maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. That we did that show, and that's pretty exciting, man. Because I remember even just in that workout, and you just going through the process. Even though we were trying to record, go live. I think it may have been a live event, maybe.
It was, yes.
he was still trying to work,
Absolutely.
even though it was just kind of a
Absolutely.
TV thing,
Yes.
or a show kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, he's married now. He's got a family. He's got a little 1-year-old boy who's just absolutely adorable. His wife Samantha. He's got a great family, and I couldn't be happier for him.
Man, awesome. Good for him. I do want to talk some baseball because one of the
Absolutely.
things that I enjoy about you is your honesty into the sport. And there was some things in the last couple of days that you posted that really kind of resonated with me, just in who the athlete I was, some of the things that I try to, talk to my athletes about, because, in today's sport, I feel like our athletes care way more about failure and their own failures versus like the team game and some things like
Sure.
that. And I guess this was yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. It says, show up when it's not easy, show up when it's not convenient, show up when you don't want to, show up when you don't feel like it. Just show up. The just I added, but it says
Absolutely.
show up. Kind of build on that for everybody to kind of understand what you're saying and what you mean, kind of in that post.
If you want to achieve greatness in anything you do in life, especially in a sports platform or just in general being a professional, you got to work when you don't feel like it. You got to do the most work when the lights aren't bright. So when the lights do get bright, you go on the field and you perform. And it's all about really stepping outside of your comfort zone as an individual to challenge yourself to get better. The biggest obstacle that I see in sports in general is training and comfort. And I impress upon my people that this process involves uncomfortability. And if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you're never going to be comfortable into a situation when you step in the game and perform at your peak best. So for me, everything that I do is based on uncomfortability. Every drill that I perform, every mindset that I give into these guys, I want these guys to feel extremely uncomfortable until they do get comfortable. So when they step in the box with a dude throwing gas, with secondary stuff that can command both sides of the plate, they're no longer uncomfortable. They're competing and they're ready to perform when the lights are on. For me, I don't want to be a 5 o'clock hitter for a 7 o'clock game.
Yep.
I want to be a 7 o'clock hitter for a 7 o'clock game. So it's all based on your mindset and your willingness to be uncomfortable. Every kid that I start initially with doesn't understand the difference between practice or activity. You're based on a repetition format in these practices. And for me, it's not about the quantity of reps, it's about the quality of reps, but it's about challenging yourself to work on deficiencies in practice, not your strengths. So when you step in the box, I'm ready to go now. So for me, it's all about taking them outside of their comfort zone. And if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, don't ever think that you're going to achieve greatness, because you're just not.
Yeah, you said deficiencies, and I think about what those are, and those are uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Because those are the high velocities, or
Absolutely.
the slow pitching that we are not adjusting to. Deficiencies, I think about that as being uncomfortable, and something that I learned from the coaching side. I didn't understand this when I was a kid playing, because I wasn't much in failure. I didn't think about the game as a failure. I understood what 3 for 10 was, or
Right.
hitting 350 for a season. I always had I read or heard something that Kristen Yelich said, and I don't remember the hitting coach. I think it was a Pirates hitting coach. When he was taking it. It takes a really long time to be bad, and it takes a really long time to be good.
100%.
And because of the season is just
Right.
the ups and downs. And what I learned from the coaching side, from our coach who played for the U.S. Olympic team on the softball side, her whole thing was be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Absolutely. You have to embrace the uncomfortability to grow exponentially as a player, as a person, as a mentor. I mean, I challenged myself to step outside of my comfort zone about 10 or 11 years ago. I completely changed my entire hitting philosophy, my program, based on, what we were all taught as young kids and individuals. You're bought into a certain style or a certain philosophy, and you're all in with that. But when you look at great hitters do great things on the field, it's the way they train not only their mindset, but the way they train themselves all the time. I do assessments with hitters when they come in. That's their first part of it. I'll spend 45 minutes to an hour with an assessment. I'll video, I work some data. The first thing I'll do is I'll put them off the tee. I'll put the tee on the outside part of the plate, and I've had numerous kids automatically take the tee and put it in the middle of the plate. I said, what are you doing? Well, I'm putting the tee in the middle of the plate. I'm getting warm. I'm getting ready. I go, well, why are you putting the ball in the middle of the plate? And they don't understand why they put it in the middle of the plate. It's comfortable. It's easy. So I put it back on the outside part of the plate and watch them roll over and hook the ball about 11 times in a row. And then I see frustration starting to mount, anxiety start to mount. And then I have to explain to them what the definition of insanity is. You know, and
Yep.
you know, guys, you're doing the same thing over and over, but you're expecting a different result. You have to challenge yourself to change yourself. So eventually, once they understand that narrative, they begin to grow by challenging themselves. But a lot of people don't want to be challenged. They want to feel real comfortable. Everything is based on the middle of the plate, and it's comfortable in that practice setting. You're doing tee work in the middle of the plate. You're doing flips in the middle of the plate. Even machine work with velo, most of the times, where's it at? In the middle of the plate. Then they step into a game, and guess what? It's no longer in the middle of the plate. So now they become very frustrated because they can't handle pitches with different locations, different speeds, different movements. And then they come back, I'm struggling with this, that, and the other. I said, well, why do you think you're struggling with these points? Well, now you understand why you're struggling with those points. You're not challenging yourself to be better.
Yeah, I like what you're going with this, with the things, thinking about practice, because as a coach, and I've had the opportunity to coach high school, youth sports, college ball, and I think about the different levels of practice and where some of the challenging parts happen. In the games, I don't know that I'm as intense in the game as I am at practice.
Sure.
And I feel like you talked about, going through the motions. And one of the things I do believe in is we're creatures of habit, right? And so I do believe in routine, but are you challenging your routine 100%. On a day in and day out? You know, you just can't show up and field a ground ball. If
Right.
you're struggling on something, you know, go ahead and make the mistake in a game, because then you're trying to be successful. And I'm a firm believer that in order to be successful, we have to fail. And I look at that in everything. And I think that's why baseball leads to great managers and great, you know, whether it's retail or in the office
Absolutely.
or whatever, is because we deal with failure a lot in this sport. And you have to be comfortable with uncomfortable situations, which means, how do you talk to your team if you're a leader? You know,
Right.
Because even for me, I find it challenging, and it helps me grow as a human.
Right.
The uncomfortable stuff, the kids that have anxieties, that have true things that they're working and overcoming, because it's not just put on a glove and go play, right? We still deal with kids with emotions.
Sure.
And how do I need to relate to a 16-year-old kid in today's society?
Right.
It's hard for me,
Right.
Because, again, I think Brent Percio said it to us. He goes, well, did you ever ask your coach why? I was like, no, I don't know why I ever did what I did when I was playing ball. I
Right.
just did what I was told. And now it's different for me.
You know, from my perspective, I really try to hit home the fact that there's no such thing as failure. You're either going to succeed or you're going to learn. So when they understand that narrative, I think it changes the mindset, and it gives them a little bit more frame of mind that I'm going to have ups and downs with this stuff. I'm not going to be perfect, but what I can be is consistent. But the narrative has to change from a developmental standpoint of just allowing these guys to train comfortable all the time. You don't have to work harder, you have to work smarter. There has to be more of a game plan set up with that. I see a lot of, you know, differences in training pitchers and then training hitters. Hitting is more repetition based, where it really shouldn't be repetition based. It should be detail oriented based. And getting kids to understand that is probably my biggest obstacle as a coach, as an instructor, is it's not about the work that you put in, it's about the detailed work you put in. And if you're not willing to step outside of that comfort zone in practice, don't get used to being very successful on a consistent basis in a game.
Yeah, man, that's I like kind of what you said there. Well, I like it, you know, quite a bit, because I think about details in general. And so I asked a kid yesterday, so we're doing some in-season stuff, because I don't want to lose everything that we've gained from the winter, you know, so we went through in-season routines for high school. This is everything from lifting weights to just, you know, getting reps, but quality. And so, you know, we just got done playing a long weekend. We get out there and they're just kind of going through the motions, right? And so I go, hey, are you going to go over there and lift like that? Or are you going to be detailed in your lift? And I asked that question on the lifting side because you can get hurt lifting.
Absolutely.
Right? If you move wrong. And they're like, no, you know, I make sure I'm detailed. And I go, why not here? Why not take 10 less reps out of 50
Right.
and make them more quality, sit back, think about these things, and think about stuff that you're going through. What results did you have? Because, you know, if you roll over a ground ball, you don't have to immediately go back, well, it's my lower body. I spun this, I did that. Why don't you just go, well, I rolled this. I know what happened, what I did to create the rollover, and just go back and rep 5 swings to make sure you don't roll over again and move on to a new thought process or detailed information.
And that's an issue that I face every day is everybody wants to be critiqued with every swing they take.
Oh, man.
You know, they want to be coached on every swing. You don't have to coach every swing. If it becomes a pattern, if you roll over 7 or 8 consecutive balls, then we need to have a conversation. Kids want to have that feedback all the time. I get that from everybody. I need more feedback. I need more feedback. Well, you're getting feedback initially with ball flight, with feel, stuff like that, but you don't have to be critiquing yourself on every swing, because the more swings you try to critique all the time, you step in the box, all of a sudden you're trying to critique what's happening in an at-bat. You forget the level of competitiveness that it takes, you know, and that just comes together with a detailed plan on how you train.
Yeah, man, that one hits home big time because as a coach, I'll sit down at third base and I'll look at a player when they have something bad happen and they want advice.
I'm not giving advice.
I'm like, man, it's game time. Like, just go swing hard, man. And and all I tell my kids is sell out in the middle of the field. I don't. Whatever happens after that happens after. I don't care if you swing and miss. We're not taking strike 3 looking. That's a goal, right? Just sell out middle of the field. First pitch, if you want to yank it, go try to yank it, hit it as far as you can. And I look at today, and I know that you have some young players on your roster too. You have some college kids, professional kids, and you even have some 10, 11-year-old kids that are out there balling right now.
Big time.
I struggle with that in wanting to even give lessons to that age group because I feel like as they get older, they just rely on it.
Right.
And I like where your approach is at saying, hey, I want you to rely on your own ability. You're being uncomfortable, and then finding ways to be comfortable because that fixes itself, and then the athlete fixes that.
Sure.
And that has to go a long ways versus being standing down at third base going, well, you're doing this, you should be doing that, and you know, and I struggle with my own team seeing that because a lot of those kids come to me for instruction too.
Right.
And so I'm standing down there and they're looking at me and they're like, Coach, will you work with me on a regular basis? I don't want to work with you here. Go have fun because this is where everything that we've done up until this point all week has been for this one moment. You have 30 seconds. Get it right. Just go. And what I mean by get it right,
you have to let instincts kick in.
Just go for it, man. Right. Like you literally have nothing to lose. If the guy throws velocity or has velocity, you're supposed to lose.
Right.
And you know, I tell the guys, take advantage of the kids that throw slow if you want to build your numbers. The guys that throw velocity, I'm happy if I go 1 for 4.
Right.
And because it's hard to hit velocity, it really is, especially if you got a guy that commands the inside and up, you know, the ball up in the zone, and then has your secondary. It's like, I'm just trying to get lucky. It goes back to
how you trained yourself versus what you do in a game.
Yeah, and do you think because kids rep so much, they don't think about building approaches or at bats?
That's the key part of what you just said. It's all based on reps. You know, so my definition of that is: are you practicing or are you just active?
Yeah, I like that.
Reps are activity. You're going to do the same thing over and over. What result are you going to change just with the intent of reps? It's a terrible mindset to have. You know, it's just like kids that come to me initially, you know, that will take an assessment. The first thing I have a discussion with is their parents. You know, you're making a financial investment into your kid's future. If you don't protect your investment by holding your kids accountable and being a part of their development, why are we here?
Yep.
Why are we here?
Do you think that because you have the experience that you can do that versus a 22, 23-year-old kid?
100%, because, you know, the results on field speak for themselves. But what they don't see is all the work that these kids put in a very detailed manner to produce those kind of results. So for me, you know, like I said, I have to be very honest with people. I don't sugarcoat anything. If you want something sugar-coated, I'll run you over to Quick Trip. We'll get you a donut, and then you can go about your merry way, because I don't want to put any type of stamp on what I do unless I'm very, very transparent and very honest with the parents, especially at the younger levels. And that's why I say this with younger level parents. I've had a couple 9 and 10-year-olds come to me and said, I want to be a part of your program. I said, well, we're going to have to talk about that. Before I'm going to commit to working with your son or daughter, we're going to have an agreement of, why are we here? This is not a miracle worker. This is not anything that I can do to touch you and make you a better hitter. If you're not willing as a parent to work with your kid at 9, 10, and 11 years old, I don't want you in my program. Not because I don't want your business. I really appreciate that business. I appreciate the fact that you're spending your hard-earned money with me and not somewhere else. I want to earn my money. But I also have to be honest with these parents that, listen, why are we here? Are we here for activity or to achieve something different? When I invest into something, it takes time, it takes growth, it takes a process to see that income that you want, moving forward. And unless you are a parent that wants to be hands-on with a younger head, then don't come. That's why when a lot of people want to show up, drop little Johnny and Susie off, expect a miracle to be performed, and then get back in the car and let it go. At 9, 10, and 11, if your parents are not there with me, I don't want you in my program, because they see their kid 7 days a week. I see their kid 1 day a week. Parents, protect your investment. If you're not willing to invest time other than just the money and the financial resources, you're wasting the time and money that you're investing in, because you're not going to see growth. You're not going to see any type of progress until you get off the couch, go downstairs, and watch these kids perform. Not for an hour and a half. Make it 25 minutes of good work. You can send me video, you can send me everything you want, and I will critique that and get it right back to you. Allow me to earn my money. Don't just expect me to make your kid better at the end of the day, because it's not going to happen.
Man, I ear to ear, I'm smiling right now just thinking about what all of that really means. I know that there's a lot of information that just happened, but you talk about the process.
Absolutely.
And you made a post just a little bit ago, I'm assuming, when you were here kind of waiting as you left lessons or whatever you had going on this morning, you made a post and you're talking about that. And I just think about what is process and just being active. I've literally had, one of my things, if I accept a younger athlete, because I have to have one that's motivated, right?
Absolutely.
And I cannot.
You have to have a motivated parent.
Yeah.
The kids are going to be motivated if you can keep them stimulated. Here's what I see is, and I ask parents all the time. I started with a young man a couple months ago. Great young man. I mean, and the feedback that I get from his mom and dad is, this kid cannot wait to get to the facility to work with me. And I've got goosebumps, as you can see.
Yeah,
right now,
I was going to say, get a zoom on that when you got them.
This is how passionate I am about it.
Yeah.
This is my life's work, and I love it. I don't work 7 days a week because I have to. I love to do my job, but you have to allow me to do my job. And when I get feedback from parents saying that, and this gentleman's, the kid's name is Gray Parkins, plays for the U.S. Nationals, very high-level team that he plays for. This kid started with me at the bottom of the order. He ended up 3 or 4 in the lineup. High-level athlete. The kid's 10 years old. And I told mom and dad right off, if you're not involved in his development, he will not grow. And they've bought into that process. He's seen a lot better results. And this kid, I mean, he calls me his best friend, for crying out loud. I've got a lot of 10, 11, 12-year-old best friends. A lot of kids call me Uncle Shane. I love it.
Yeah, I see that.
I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
That's my life's passion. I love to do what I do, but it takes a network of things that has to happen collectively from not only just me, but the parents. Yeah, protect the investment.
You're putting the ideas in place, right? 100%. It's the execution of the athlete.
Yes.
And, I do that. It's the same feeling, and I'll get a recommendation from a family friend. It'll be, just had recently, just this past year, spring, summer, a 14-year-old kid come to me, been an athlete, but not baseball, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, one day wanted to pick up a baseball and start throwing it and hitting. Well, he's behind.
Right.
I get him. I'm like, he's never played baseball, right? So he's got a little bit of a swing, and we're going through this process. Well, he plays rec baseball, and rec baseball at 14, we're talking about issues with strike throwing, being consistent mentally. I drive, he goes home, he doesn't work, we come back, we have conversations about why he didn't work and things like that. By the end of the year, he goes 2 doubles in a game, I know that we spent a lot of dollars, but it was his dedication to practice and practicing the right way, thinking that, okay, I can take a visual rep, imagination, as a rep. You don't have to pick up a bat to visualize a game.
Right.
When you were young, I'm going to assume that you threw up a ball and you hit it as far as you can, and you just won Game 7 of the World Series.
I hit rocks all the time with a wiffle ball bat in my grandma and grandpa's driveway.
Yeah, talk about the same thing.
Yeah, I was George Brett. I was Ozzie Smith. I was whoever, Tony Gwynn was my favorite, and I was that guy. But I was taking myself through visual at-bats hitting balls or hitting rocks, whatever I did, to all areas of the field and playing the game with myself. That just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like that leads to actually having success because the one time you visualized it and that one pitch that you get in the game that's what you visualize, it all of a sudden gets hit for a missile.
Absolutely.
And you go, man, that was pretty cool. But you don't, I don't think kids these days go, I visualized that into it. You know,
it's not a part of the culture they're brought up in.
Yeah, and
that's my job to try to change that narrative and change that culture, is to get them to buy in on just doing mirror work, just working on their load, their forward move. You know, 99% of the time that I work with a client, it's not a swing related issue. It's how they're moving their body correctly or incorrectly.
Yep.
And they don't understand that because all they've been taught is the premise of a swing.
It's that back to your activity comment.
Absolutely. The load is the swing. From a timing perspective, from a bat path perspective, everything is achieved with moving your body functionally right. But the narrative is swing based. Let's swing, swing, swing until the kid finally, achieves that insanity that drives them out of the game. And that's the thing is, you look at 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-olds that are maybe a little bit bigger, stronger, and faster, that they can manipulate velocity at a young age. Why? It's in the middle of the plate. Once they get to 13, 14, now you've got a high level of strike throwers. They're commanding both sides of the plate. They're mixing in the spin, and all of a sudden these kids start to fail miserably. Well, they don't understand that 9 chances out of 10, the swing is not the issue initially. It's how they're moving their body. Are they ready at release? Are they getting themselves early enough to stay behind the ball to be able to adjust things? The ability to stay back is the ability to load the body correctly. They don't understand that, if you can't launch your swing in one move, you're in trouble.
Yeah. I always, being a recent high school coach, I didn't, last year I got to do a lot of GAC games of the week with Brian and youth baseball. And so I love that portion of it because now I get to watch. But these are kids I watch in the gym. I train and you see Twitter and you see all these cool things on PBR and all the all this excitement. And I'm thinking to myself, some of these kids aren't high level hitters, but they're being projected as these high level kids. And I'm thinking they're going to fail at the next step because they don't understand what being ready at release is. They don't think about those things. When I see them,
it's not part of the culture that they're brought up in developmental wise.
Do you think that's showcase based stuff, or is it just the idea of too many baseball teams, or too many coaches, or too many instructors?
It's a combination of a lot of things. Showcase based stuff is based on max effort. Everybody wants max effort for exit velocity, for bat speed. The most max efforted swings are the most inaccurate swings that you take. But they'll see a ball hit at 110 miles an hour off the bat, but it's a 110 mile an hour pull side roll over to the shortstop. That's not going to play at the next level.
Yeah.
110 mile an hour ground balls get caught at high levels.
It don't play with anybody throwing over 85, really.
But that's what I'm saying is, and that's where getting these kids understand, okay, there is value in understanding the exit velocity, the launch angle, blah, 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 blah. But that can't be their main focal point. It has to be, how can I consistently square up the ball with backspin on a consistent basis? It's all about being on the barrel. That means I have to have a repeatable load. Every pitcher that throws strikes has a repeatable delivery. Your max effort pitchers that don't throw strikes, they're not in the game very long.
Yeah.
Well, your max effort hitters that cannot hit the ball with backspin to both sides of the field don't play very long at a high level. They get exposed.
Yep. And it's very quick that they're out of the game.
But they look good in a showcase-based setting because everything is based on data metrics only with the sexy numbers.
Yep.
What their exit velocity is, what their overall bat speed is. And they predicate that is, okay, that's going to be some big deal. But once again, are you hitting the ball at 110 miles an hour on the line? Or are you hitting everything to the pull side at 110 miles an hour? You look at big leaguers this year that have struggled mightily, that are heavy pull side guys. It doesn't translate right now. It's not effective in a game. That's why you see the strikeout rates, and stuff like that. The inability to hit the ball to all fields is killing hitters. That's why you see a lot of batting averages down, a lot of on-base percentage down, but then they want to gravitate to, well, I'm hitting the ball a lot harder. Well, are you still successful hitting the ball that hard?
Yeah, because a pop-up's a pop, an out's an out.
An out's an out. So the more times that I can square up a ball on a line eventually you're going to find grass. But
Yeah.
it's the one ball out of every 10 trips to the plate that you hit it and it gets caught. Now insanity starts to occur.
Yeah,
You know?
I like debating sometimes with you on about the big leagues, like Cardinal stuff or hockey, whatever. It's fun, it's content, whatever. I think about what you just said with a guy like Nolan Gorman. Up until this national series, I felt like he was lost.
Yes.
And now what's he doing? He's barreling baseballs to the opposite field, taking
100%.
what's given to him. And I've found that in the younger, coaching my 16U team right now, they don't look as hitting the ball, let's say we have 2 strikes, runner at second base. They don't look at it productive to hitting the ball to the right side, moving that runner over. They don't look at that as productive.
Right.
They look at that as, again, failure.
It's all about quality at bats.
Yeah, and I have to just express, which sometimes is taxing because you have to do it a lot. I'm like, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Right.
That is a great job. And then what happens? You don't always score, right? Sometimes
Right.
they get out of the inning, you got to tip your cap, you move on. But what happens when it does?
Right.
Everybody's excited.
Snowballs, yes.
Because it wouldn't have happened if you did not do an unselfish thing.
Right.
You're worried about your numbers because you want to play college ball. It is hard to play college baseball right now.
Yes.
With the transfer portal and different
ridiculous.
various things, it's like it's very hard right now to play college baseball. I'm not saying there's not a place for you.
Right.
It's just it's hard, and it's also exciting because there's nothing like the experience of playing college
Right.
baseball. But again, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Michael Ciani right now for the Cardinals, he's hitting 217. Started off a $108, and you look at 217, you're like, man, that's crazy. Well, Luis Ariz has 29 offers on the season.
Right.
Michael Ciani's got 32.
Right.
That's not far off.
No.
The difference is maybe
He's made adjustments.
Luis Ariz has maybe more 2-hit games, right?
100%.
But they're not that far. And I was told at a young age, 50 points is a week
Absolutely.
in a big league season. And
Right.
so I always think about trying to take the mental side and go barrel the ball. Just
Exactly.
however,
Hit it
whatever
hard.
you do, hit it hard. I don't care if you hit it hard here, line drive, or in the air, barrel the baseball.
Right.
Because it takes something to get to the barrel, right?
Right.
Everything else is miss it.
Right.
And so I try to keep it that simple, man. And up until this past weekend, I had a struggle with my group. I mean, we had to pitch and play defense very well. And if you gave too many free bases away, we were in trouble because
Right.
offensively we couldn't recover. And I've literally just stopped with execute this, put a bunt down,
Right.
sack flies. Like, let's play baseball.
Well, you're
That's
playing
what
the
we
game
do.
again, which
Yeah.
is not too often anymore.
And long term though, it's beneficial because what do you
Absolutely.
play in college? You play the game again.
Absolutely.
And they don't understand it because they don't watch it enough.
100%.
And I just think about like guys like Michael Ciani, who was never even on the Cardinals' radar to start the season. 11 defensive runs saved, probably a few more last night with the plays that he made for Michaelis. Hopefully they watch the game.
Right.
But again, he's hitting 217. I don't care.
No, I don't
Go
care either
play
because
the
he's playing
defense.
Gold Glove defense. He's a game changer on that side, but he's making adjustments.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. That's what will keep him in the big leagues is his ability to adjust and to consistently get better as he gets more at bats.
Yeah, Ali said that last night, and I know that we've got some feelings about Ali, just especially at the beginning of the year. But Ali supported his guy last night. He is making quality at bats, having
Right.
competitive at bats,
And that's what
and
it's
he's
about.
fighting for us in the
Right.
9 spot.
And you have to understand some of these failures, in my opinion, or they have so much more information at the big league level that, and I know Nolan Gorman's hitting coach, Trey Hannum. And these guys fight the data and the analytics because they're told what to swing at a certain count all the time, what to pitch to look for. If you're guessing, you might guess right sometimes, but you're going to guess wrong a lot of times too. So the more information you feed some of these hitters, some people like that type of information. Other hitters don't want the information, but they're getting it force-fed down their throat because that's the premise of these organizations. So, there's just so much information that these guys are trying to process day in and day out.
Yeah.
You have so many guys now that, you're going to get into a starter, maybe 5 or 6 innings. Then you're getting into the back part of that bullpen with high levels of velocity and spin, and you're guessing most of the time. The more you fill these hitters' minds up, the less they're going to perform in a game. And most hitters don't want all that information. Some do, but most don't. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to spit out names who I've talked to at that level that don't want the information at all. you know, because there's a lot of them that are resisting that information. They want to play based on instinct and feel. They want to have the ability to compete on their own, not be told, you need to swing at this pitch in this certain situation with this count, and all you're hunting is one location. And they get themselves out.
Yeah, I feel like that's a Jordan Walker thing. Like, we just let that young man play the game of baseball.
Yes.
I kind of like what your Science of Hitting, Ted Williams, right? 1986, that book came out. And he had talked about kind of the guest hitting role and what his thoughts on guest hitting was. And he said, he said in the book, I was a guest hitter. I think back then the data was very limited. You had pitch counts, right? So you were tracking pitches, and so you had a feel for a guy, what he would throw in one spot, but he wasn't hunting a small location.
Right.
And I think about, like, getting information. I can remember when we would cheat, a guy on second base would look in, the guy would flash the signs, and you'd give the little, okay, it's going to be an outside pitch. I'd be looking outside, he'd throw the ball in, I'd get frozen.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's the wrong thing I'm looking at.
Right.
And so I don't want my guys doing that kind of stuff. I want them to have the instincts, the adjustments, hitting the ball where it's going, not where you see the hump out in the middle of, halfway to you. It's things like that I do think struggle, and it's why people, say that the Cardinals, sometimes the development process is an issue, is because they are so analytically driven.
Very, very analytically driven.
It's tough to watch because I'll look at a 3-1 count, and Jimmy Edmonds talked about this on a game, which, give or take whether you like him on the radio or not, whatever. His information sometimes is gold.
It's phenomenal.
And
the
he
guy
talked
played
about
the big leagues for 15 years.
Yeah, and you don't have that.
How do you question that?
It's like what, 8% or something has played 10 years or more of all major league.
Absolutely.
Players. It's a very small percentage that play this long. And when the Cardinals were struggling, you saw a lot of 3-1 heater takes.
Right.
And I mean right down the middle.
They're looking for a slider instead of a heater.
And what do they get on the 3-2?
Right.
Slider.
Exactly.
Slider, let's say they fight. It's slider, fastball.
Slider, cutter, sinker, splitter. I mean,
you don't get nothing straight anymore because you've set up the at-bat that way. And if I, as a casual fan, I think I have a good baseball IQ, but I'm looking at the game going, okay, well, you just took that pitch. Here comes a slider. Bases loaded. There's always bases loaded situations, right? Boom, slider. Well, here it comes again. Right. It's obvious.
Sure.
Boom, slider. You know what I mean? And it's like, now it becomes obvious because what else are you going to throw?
Right.
You're not going to throw a heater 3-2. You're going to back it up with a slider.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be over the plate because they're not going to walk you. Right. And I just think about these things, and I say, there's no way that just an average fan can pick out this and a big leaguer can't. And it's literally, what is the 5 pitches that you're getting?
Right.
And I just think to myself, we've got to be better than that.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that the guys that are in the bench have a lot of information and a lot
tons
of knowledge.
information. How many iPads do you see on the bench now?
Well,
Every hitter has their own iPad.
Yeah, that's what I loved about Ron Washington saying about
that
Zach
iPad
Neto.
ain't going to help you, brother.
Yeah, I think it was Zach Neto, right?
Yeah.
Neto, however you say his
yeah.
name. And he goes out and he, belts a couple doubles and a dinger, to win the game or whatever it was. And that's real honesty. And a lot of people were on Ron Washington about him saying that because of the way that he kind of directed it. And maybe it was a little borderline because he is a big leaguer, but I'm like, man, that's real.
Right.
Why do you want so much? Like, you get done with an at bat, you immediately walk in there, grab your iPad. What did you do wrong? Well, you took the fastball right down the middle of the plate. That's what you did wrong. Right. Then why did you do that wrong? Because of the scouting before the game when you're sitting down there.
Yeah.
And I think, like, we did this in college as a coach. We would scout.
Sure.
We would have tendencies. But I'm not going.
We had hitter spray charts. We didn't have all the data that they have now, but you got guys that are working with spray charts.
Yeah, I think, okay, well, we're going to hit this pitcher in or this batter in because they execute this pitch well out here, or they hit it hard out here, so we're going to get them in. If they go 2 for 3 with 2 bloop singles,
right,
we've done our job.
100%. You're limiting damage.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes, the game has funny ways of correcting itself or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And I think about those things. I'm like, just stick to our game plan. And so what is your game plan as a hitter? 16-year-old kids come to me that go, I don't know what a game plan is. It bothers me because we have high-level kids at these high schools.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what are the high school coaches teaching? And I'm not, and there's some darn good ones out there, but they're telling me it's almost not their job anymore because the parents are telling the high school coaches that I got a hitting guy and we're going
Right.
to listen to the hitting guy, which goes back to your activity.
Exactly.
It does not go back to building the athlete. And
Right.
at a young age, I think about movement patterns more than I ever think about reps
Absolutely.
or activity. However,
It's
even the
quality
reps,
over
even if it's
quantity.
quality reps, I
Right.
still think about getting the athlete to move the right way.
Right.
Because if I can't get the kid to understand what internal or external movements are, I can't turn this guy into a
Sure.
wizard. You know what I mean? And so I just think about those things, and I really love some of the stuff that you guys that you talk about on your Facebook page. So go out there. It's Premier Hitting Development. Check him out, because I think there's a lot of cool little quotes that you have that you make, whether they're yours or somebody else's that you.
No, they're not all mine, but they all resonate with what my philosophy is and my thought process.
Yeah, because I think it's a big deal that you see that most of the people that are baseball minds and not just taking money from you, there is a significant amount of growth in the player. Whether you're the best player or you're in a premier team or you're on a mid-level team, which most of baseball is here.
Right.
There's very few kids here, and there's really very few kids that are your 1%ers, right? And so before we go, though, I do want to talk about one thing. With tryout season happening,
Yeah.
I've been seeing this a lot lately, and it's been bothering me. I'm a big guy. I would assume that you might look at yourself as a, what'd you say earlier, not tall guy?
Yeah, I'm not short. I'm under tall.
Yeah, under tall. That's it, under tall. And I'm a big guy. And so I played this game as a big guy. I was 260 pounds when I graduated high school. I was a little lighter when I was in college because they, put some
Right.
diet on me and did some things to help me lose some weight. I played adult baseball as a large man, and everybody would look at me and, of course, judge me, which is fine because I think that's part of it. It's part of playing. You look at a kid and you go, yeah, he's overweight. He's not going to do much until I hit the baseball, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking about some of the excuses I'm seeing, and I'm calling them excuses that parents are making for coaches cutting kids who may be undersized or who may be big or oversized, I guess, if you will. And I always defend this as, if you're an athlete, you'll always have an opportunity. You can be
Absolutely.
big and you can be athletic.
Sure.
You can be short and have power. You can be 5'5" and hit the ball over a 350-foot fence. And what do you kind of what would you tell these folks that are using size as a reason that they think their kid's getting cut versus ability?
That's just it. I mean, and it boils down to what they're being fed and the information they're being fed. My son has a 105-mile-an-hour exit velocity at 15, 16 years old. Is it translating to his performance on the field? His bat speed and his analytical numbers are way better than every kid on his team. But is it translating to his performance on the field? And it doesn't necessarily translate.
Yeah, that's even different. That's just skill set even.
Absolutely.
Like, you're talking about a kid, it doesn't, you didn't even say anything about size.
Right.
You just literally said 15, 16-year-old kid melting baseballs, but does it translate
But
to
he
the
can't
field?
do it in the game. But he sees everything that he does in a practice setting, and all of his numbers are good. And, these teams go and they'll run out the hit tracks cage, or, they'll use this, that, and the other, and they'll see everything that is on a line maybe, but to the pull side, and it's not translating to the game because all of a sudden the balls are not in the middle of the plate anymore. The balls are located with spin, with, they're tunneling pitches, and he's not able to make adjustments to that. But he looks really good at 5 o'clock, but come 7 o'clock, he doesn't look as good. So it just boils down to how consistent are you going to be to perform? And that's going to make you or break you. Every level that you're going to move up is based on consistency. That's where you see a lot of kids. There's a lot of studs at 9 through 12. Once 13 hits and other people start growing, velocity starts to increase, command, location, speeds, movements, all of a sudden, now you're getting exposed for your deficiencies on how you've trained over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids cannot deal with that type of failure, and they end up either becoming a PO or they quit the game. They haven't evolved.
Yeah, you see
when
quitting
you don't
the game a lot.
when you don't evolve, you go extinct. And that's basically how I set myself up is for the first 20 years of my career, I was just based upon what I was taught. I chose to step outside of my comfort zone to get better and to grow. That's why there's a lot of people that gravitate to working with me now. I am way better at 50 years old than I was at 30 years old.
Man, same.
And,
Yeah.
and if you don't continually get better as a coach, as a mentor, as a person, you're cheating people out of what you can really give to this game.
Yeah,
and
you gotta
I pride
adapt.
myself every day. I try to get a little bit better.
Yep.
You get 1% better every day, man. That's over 365 days. How much have you grown? But how much have you grown as a person, an individual? As a motivator, and you got to be able to stimulate these kids. They want to be motivated,
Yeah.
but you have to find the right buttons to push to get that out of them. And if you can't find that button, and you get caught up in insanity, they're not going to get better.
Always chasing 100%. I love the 1% better every day, because I feel like if I'm getting 1% better every day, I'll never achieve 100.
Right.
I might be at 99 for a long time,
Absolutely.
but I'm always trying to find a way to get better. And sometimes, I get frustrated with some of the stuff on social media when we have fans that'll post like, "Did the umpire get it right?"
Right.
And it's like super generic, and it
Right.
bothers me, because these are the people that are trying to yell at umpires,
Right.
yell at coaches for the most part.
That's
right?
why we can't find enough umpires to umpire games.
It bothers me that we have a lot of people that really just don't understand this.
Right.
And then we have a lot of great baseball minds that are undervalued just because you got a guy that just is activity.
Right.
I let me go spend $50 with this guy just because I can throw a bunch of BP.
Right. What are you doing?
What are we really doing
You're not
for
doing
these
anything
kids?
to help them.
And even if you're an average athlete, be the best average player you can be, because, again, that's really what most of us are.
Right.
I think about when I graduated in 98 from Rittner High School, I was a good high school player. I thought I was I was at all conference, so I did well in Suburban North.
Right.
I had David Fowler, ninth round pick to the Yankees. I was not even in the ballpark as that kid.
Right.
I got lucky to throw him out one time. I'd always throw him curveballs because he couldn't hit them. But everybody else, they destroyed. I couldn't play with that kid. I couldn't run with him, couldn't throw
Right.
with him. He could hit a mile. He was super athletic. He had Justin Baxmeyer at the time, what DeSmet was doing
Yes.
with Zimmerman and Keppel and all those guys. And Collier out here.
Oh, yeah.
And Prater. All these guys were dudes.
Yes.
And then there was everybody else.
Right.
And those guys threw like 88 back then.
That's
Not
well,
even
they all-
90s. And you got,
they all played with one select team called the Comets. I worked with most of those guys. Peter Stoddard, the Clayton kid there, Lee Laskowski. All those kids played together.
yeah, it's so very different these days, and I'm not taking anything away from any parent coaching or anything
None
of that
whatsoever.
nature, because I think that you have to have that, especially if you're in an organization. You have to have some of these parents. You need to have the right group of parents trying to coach, which is just trying to build some of this mental stuff. I think the game, the physical side of the game, is just that. You either got physical tools or you
Right.
don't have them. And if you don't have them, we're going to try to build them. If you have
Right.
some other kind of skill set. It's the mental side for me. It's like I am trying to teach my kids to be the best high school players that they can
Right.
be. I have no idea if they're going to make it to college.
Yeah, I mean, the mental side is very undervalued. Baseball IQ is very poor.
Way down.
Well, everything is based on data and showcase stuff. They want to showcase their athletic ability, but you step on the field and you expose them every time.
Does it bother you that nobody knows how to keep score?
It drives
that,
me nuts.
That kids don't know how to keep score?
Yes, it does. It drives me nuts.
Let me ask you another one. And I know that's off topic and I cut you
Sure.
short there.
No,
I
you're good.
apologize for that. When you're reading a score, do you read the score with the lowest number first or the highest number first? So the Cardinals won 6-5.
Uh-huh.
Or do you say the Cardinals lost 5-6?
6-5.
Yeah. So this drives me bonkers. I don't know why, but if someone tells me the score, like Cardinals Braves, it was 4-6.
Yeah.
That bothers me.
No, I want to slap him on the forehead right there. So, yeah, 4-6. What is that?
And-
Is that a
and-
put out or is that a
yeah,
final
so that's,
score?
okay, that's what I go with. So I asked the question because now I have to ask questions
Right.
because I want to know the thought process of these kids.
Yeah.
And they go, well, coach, it's the first number on top. And I'm like, it's valid,
Right.
but it bothers me.
It bothers me.
The Cardinals either won or lost 6-5.
100%.
Or won 6-5, whatever the case may be. And it's stuff like this, man, that bothers me because I see this a lot, and I just see this generic thing with these huge expectations, and I think that just goes back to what you're talking about in the process, activity versus quality.
Right.
And I'm going to use that. I'm stealing that. So
It's
hopefully
activity
you
versus
don't mind.
achievement. I mean, you can be active all day long, but what have you really achieved other than the reps?
Yeah, and even though I'm a huge believer of creatures of habit, and I'm sure you can agree, because in order to
100%.
practice, in order to get better, we have to practice.
Right. But it's practice with intent to
yeah.
change, to get better, not
Man,
just to practice.
the
You don't have
activity-
to work harder. You have to work smarter.
The activity piece got me, because I will have a family come in and they'll want to do lessons with me. So and so directed me to you, and I said, this is what I'm about. This is what I want from you. I don't have a lot of data driven stuff. It's different hats I wear. I can't invest my time like
Right.
that. And so I do the best trying to build the approach to hitting, which I think is a solid foundation. I'm
Right.
not the extensive to, video metrics and things like that. I'll take it on my cell phone, use an old Coach's Eye app or something like that to help talk about degrees or postures, things like that. But like at the end of the day, for me, man, I'm trying to build approach, and I'll have a kid come in there and they will tell me, I'm looking for a coach in a half hour to throw 100 baseballs.
It's not happening.
And I'm like, man, I'm exhausted just thinking about
Not happening.
going through that. And I'm like, man, I might throw 10.
Right.
And I did. I had a kid that they said, hey, let's get a workout with you. It was a female athlete. She came in, and I think we may have gotten 25 swings in overall in a 30-minute session.
Right.
And I am trying to help manipulate thought processes, kind of explain terminology that I use. That parent didn't want to come back.
Bye.
And I, of course, I'm 44 now, so
Right.
I think I can do that because I have a good enough client base that I can say that. If I'm 22 years old, I'm probably adjusting
Sure.
to their likes or whatever. But now I'm like, well, wait a
But
minute.
you're allowing them to dictate to you what they want to do.
Yeah, and
Not what it is in the
what did you
best
hire
infor-
me for?
Exactly.
If you
well, they
hired
hired
me-
you for activity. So when they don't achieve anything that's different in the game, who are they going to come back
Yeah, but that's
and
what Bob
criticize?
Petit's for.
You know what I mean? Exactly.
You can go to daycare if you want.
Exactly. Don't
There's-
waste my time and your money. And I'm not trying to be arrogant when I say that.
Well, it's
I'm
value,
trying
though.
to get you to protect your investment.
Yeah, I didn't look at it like that because this truly is an investment. It's
100%.
not.
But it's not
the-
just an investment financially, but it's an investment in your kid, in time spent with them, holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Not criticizing them, but coaching them.
Yep.
And understand that is, it just doesn't relate to the game. It's going to relate to life. If not, you're just burning $20 bills. And I'm happy to take that from you, but I don't feel good at the end of the day. I want to feel good at the end of the day when you see the amount of posts that I put out there on social media all the time praising what my guys or my girls have done. Not to promote myself per se, but to show how much that process needs to be recognized.
Yeah, I think about, for an example, is Caden Bogenpole.
Yes.
I think I shared this with you online. I had no idea the young man could hit like that. And I know that we got a chance to see him play, but I thought he was going to go to Missouri State and pitch, which he still may.
Right.
But when I saw, first weekend out or whatever, he hit a couple dingers, I'm
Right.
like, well, wait a minute. I mean, I've seen him hit a home run against CBC, but
It's still going.
yes, it's still going. and I'm thinking about this, and I'm going, man, this guy has dedicated himself to a lot because he was a good pitcher in high school,
Right.
which he had to work. He's a good hitter in high school, which he
Right.
had to work. Then going into his freshman year, I'm going to assume all summer long you guys worked.
Yes.
And he had to work on his own because you don't have
Well,
a day for him every single day.
where he grew now, and he's really taken everything to the next level, is he's working every single day at Missouri State. There is a body of work being done that nobody sees. And that's the important part is a lot of these higher level athletes will start to really gravitate to a lot more consistency because they're getting more detailed, consistent reps in college. And that's what Caden's been able to do. And it's all about his ability to perform consistently because of that. And he was able to do that. I mean, what a great year he had.
Man.
Set a freshman record for home runs, beating Ryan Howard. That's a heck of a name to put yourself in the
Yep.
record books one step above.
Yeah.
But it's his attention to detail and everything that he does now, and that's why he will continue to be successful. But here's another guy that is not pull dominant guy. He hit 20 home runs, and 11 of those 20 home runs were to left center. His ability to use the whole field is why he was so successful. If you are just a pull dominant side, you're going to be in trouble. And he did go through parts of his season where he got pull heavy, the strikeouts increased, all of a sudden he reins it back in. He made an adjustment. He started staying on the ball away, hitting the ball, because he's that type of ability to hit the ball out, where some guys have to cheat their ability and only hit the ball out to the pull side. That's where you see the on-base percentage go down, the strikeouts go up, the quality of bat percentage go down. For every one bomb they hit, they're striking out, rolling over, or popping up 9 out of every 10 times. So what's it about? What's going to keep you involved in this game, and what's going to make him progressively get better is his ability to be consistent.
Yep.
Not one time showing it, but being able to do it numerous times.
I always tell the kids the one thing that we can do is control our movement patterns, right?
Absolutely.
So we can be 10 out of 10 with our loads and strides and, getting ready to release. Those things we could be. If we're 10 out of 10, I feel like your numbers will be there.
Well, yeah.
Right? It's when you think you did something wrong in your load. You think you did something wrong in your stride. You don't think you got separation or whatever these kids think the process. And then, again, it goes back to that consistency in the rep.
Well, and
I
it's
tell
just
them 10 out of
doing
10.
the reps. Just, getting in front of the mirror and doing it.
Yeah.
And that's where you see hitting development differ from pitching development. You can't step in a bullpen session and throw 125 pitches. So I see a lot of pitching instructors. I work with them all the time. They're doing movement pattern breakdowns. Well, what allows a pitcher to throw consistent strikes is a repeatable delivery. They have to understand that narrative as a hitter. That's why pitching development, in my mind, is far exceeding what hitting development is, because hitting development at most levels are repetition-based.
Yep.
There's more quality in a pitching development aspect because they can't just step on a mound and throw a 100-pitch bullpen. They're gassed, they're done.
Yep.
You're sitting out for 4 or 5 days. So what they're doing is consistent movement pattern breakdowns and then putting it together maybe with 15 or 20 pitches at the end. That is the narrative that has to be translated to developing hitters. You have to repeat the load over and over and over to put the body in a position to launch the swing correctly. The inability to load your body on a consistent basis creates the inability to produce a vertical bat path, directional, a linear path to the ball. And that's what just doesn't get translated enough. So it's the work time that you spend doing the reps dry that are just as valuable, if not more valuable, than just swinging the bat.
Yeah. What is a solution to that, or what could you suggest to parents? Because you're right. Like when I think about just how we set up pitching versus hitting, we may set up an hour and a half of pitching. If we're like our team stuff, right?
Right.
We might set up an hour and a half of pitching, but we only do an hour and a half of hitting, or an hour of hitting.
Right.
And so then you're condensing this. Well, what do you take out? Well, you take out probably movement patterns. You take out conversations. So do you feel like that the focus on pitching is time, and maybe I'm asking that the wrong way, but I'm thinking about what you're doing, and I'm like, I focus on pitching just like you said, and I focus on my hitting just like you said.
Well,
I gotta
a clear,
give them
concise
the move.
plan, where most people don't have that type of plan because they base everything on reps only.
Is it? Do you think that's because of time?
I think it is. But what are you doing? You need to prioritize the time that you're spending. Less swings will equate to more game performance when the detail is there.
When the first time I told our athletes that it's okay not to hit a whole bucket in one round,
right?
Just devastated.
Well, sure.
And I go, well, tell me what swing 7, 8, 9, 10, before you take your deep breath because you failed 5 or 6 in a row because you lost your mechanics, the repeatable loads,
insanity sets in.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing over and over, but I'm not achieving a different result. You have to change the process to get the result different.
6 to 8, man. I'm a big fan of the 5 and 6. I don't even like necessarily 8 unless we maybe work a couple of bunts. And there are those 8 pitches are in, say,
how many one mores do you get in BP? One more.
Yeah.
One more.
Well, I don't let them.
One more. I don't either.
You don't get into the game.
That's what I'm saying. If I say one more, you hit a ball, your one more is done.
Yeah.
Now there'll be a couple times where I'll give in a little bit, and especially from a point of a kid that might be really first starting out. You want to get them to end on a really good note. But then there's high-level hitters that I have that consistently want one more. But you just backspun a ball the opposite way. You're done.
Yeah, and they
don't
don't
want one more. And then the next one more is a rollover ground ball to the right side. Well, I need one more now. No, we're done.
Yeah, the feel good.
We're done. There's no mulligans in baseball.
Yeah, the feel good rounds. It's funny because I'll be like, hey, feel good. This last round's a feel good. Kid will come in.
But everybody wants to feel good all the time. They don't want to feel not good.
Well, we should, right? I mean,
absolutely, you want to feel good.
I even think when we came down and watched you guys hit with Braxton, I think you had flipped him a couple. He had hit maybe the third ball.
Yeah, I'm done.
Set his bat down, started to have a conversation, came back, hit 3 or 4 again, then hit 1, and then hit 5, and then hit 3. It was never a set number.
No, there's never a set number.
let me reflect on the ball that I hit.
Right. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and that goes a long, long ways. And
Huge.
you don't have to be high level here to even have those conversations.
No.
You just have to be
But
willing.
you have to take time out to do that.
Yeah.
Where I really start to, I was very fortunate enough in 2010 and 2011. I've got a very good relationship with Jose Oquendo. He brought me into Albert Pujols' world because Albert would come down and hit at our facility at times because Jose lived in our area, this, that, and the other. To watch that man go through his routine was special. He would literally take 5 or 6 swings and he's done. He would always have me bring in college guys. So I had the Jason Haggertys of the world, the Jimmy Clockies, the David Stewarts. These guys got to hit with Albert Pujols in an off season. It was awesome for them. But what really the biggest thing they got out of that was his attention to detail. That it wasn't 25 consecutive swings. Now I'm gassed and I'm going to go sit down for a little while. It was 7 or 8 detailed swings. I'm good. Then we'd talk. He would rest. He'd take a drink. We'd talk about that. He would, talk to Jose. And then we'd go back in for 7 or 8 more swings. All right, now bring your guys in and let them hit. And then he's working with those guys, But it's...
He would be there for probably hour and a half, 2 hours.
3 hours. You're talking, because then he'd take ground balls. But then to watch those two
have
work
50
together.
swings maybe
That's
total.
what I'm saying. 50 to 60 swings, he was done. He was done.
Yeah.
Everybody wants 50 to 60 swings in 5 minutes.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Activity.
What do you do? Exactly.
I'm really stuck on this. If you can't tell, I'm stuck on the activity part. Just because I think in just using that word,
right,
to compare, and I know that comparison is dangerous word to use in sports, but I'm comparing that to hit your own routine and
right.
and just the activity piece. It's like, what? I literally have a kid who's struggling right now, and I swear every rep that he takes is just to be active.
Right.
There's no investment, and
that's the problem.
And
when
as a coach,
you only
you get
invest
frustrated.
time and not invest detail, you're not going to grow.
You get frustrated, as a coach.
Absolutely.
And then you take a scale back, and it's like, okay, now coach isn't talking to me like he used to. Maybe I need to wake up, and then all of a sudden the details come in, and all of a sudden he's out of his slump, which I don't believe in slumps. I know that you
Likewise.
go 0 for something,
Sure.
but that happens. It's usually between the ears.
I'll get messages from parents. Johnny was 2 for 11 on the weekend, but he barreled up 7 out of 11 balls. He struck out a couple times. He's slumping
good.
right now. What?
No, I'm good.
What?
No, buddy, you're good.
Is 1 for 37.
Yeah.
Okay? Not 2 for 11 with a couple line outs, a couple quality at bats mixed in there. He might have punched out a time or two, but that's not a slump.
Heck, I think the 1 for 37 might have been all right for me. I was 0 for 32 once. Man, it was disastrous, but I got 1 bloop hit.
Turns it all around.
And I at that moment, I realized all of what I was thinking was the problem.
Right.
Not the tools, not the physical.
Solution to the problem.
And I literally was telling myself, I'm in a slump. I'm in a slump. I'm in a slump. I got to do this, right? And I kept using those words. It never worked.
If you try not to fail, you're going to fail.
Oh, yeah. And all
hitters
of a sudden,
are going to hit. You see it happen all the time.
And the rest of the playoffs, I knocked a cover off the ball and was
Right.
able to produce. And so kind of with that, though, I don't believe in slumps. So you just kind of said the same
Absolutely.
thing. Find a way to get confident.
Yes.
If that's going up, hanging out with your buddies.
But most people want to be confident in a uncontrolled environment where they're just not, they only want to be comfortable to find that.
Yep.
You're going to challenge yourself to get better. You're going to start out uncomfortable, but you're going to figure it out, and then all of a sudden you're going to become really comfortable, which is going to translate to what you do in a game in the box. With the game on the line against a dude throwing some gas, with secondary stuff, you're no longer uncomfortable in that setting. You're now focused on competing with what has to happen.
Yep. That's gold. That's gold. Be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Shane, I appreciate your time
Yes,
today.
sir. It's a pleasure.
I can't wait to have you on again. I'm sure
Likewise.
that we'll get you on the show just to
Absolutely.
talk more baseball. And again, go follow him. It's Premier Hitting Development. It's on Facebook. Are you on
Twitter?
Twitter?
Yep.
IG or anything else?
Instagram,
All of them?
TikTok.
All of them.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I follow you on TikTok, so I
Oh,
need to go follow you on
hit
TikTok.
that follow on there.
You got to make sure you return the follow.
Oh, absolutely.
But go check him out, man. He's got a lot of cool information and a lot of guys in the area that are from the high school side and college professionally. If you're just kind of trying to figure out who's in the area, And then he's got some younger kids that he works with, guys that I played baseball against. I saw a post the other day about Carricker.
Yes.
I played baseball against his dad growing up.
What a turnaround for his son.
Yeah, right?
His son's a very high-level athlete, great kid.
Puts the time in.
They're bought in now.
Yeah.
They understand that.
Well, I'm sure Corey's bought in, because I know
Corey's very bought in.
I know that the way he was as a player and his dad and stuff like that. And
Chuck,
so
yeah.
it's just cool. It's just cool to see guys that I play with kind of now having kids in the world. The Baxmeyers of the world.
Yes.
His daughter, is out there playing, and it's really neat. So go follow him, Premier Hitting Development on Facebook and all the other socials, and of course you got to go follow us, like us, share us. Biggest thing I need you to do is go to YouTube, Youth Baseball Midwest. You got to hit that subscribe button. You got to hit dingers, because I know that's what I do, and I know that's what he teaches.
Chicks dig the long ball.
There we go. Man, what a great commercial, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
They play it every now
Yes.
and then. That's a guy I emulated growing up. You want to talk about visuals, imagination.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought I could be Mark McGuire, both the small version and the big version.
Right.
Whether your take on the, if he juiced or not.
Vegetable juice.
Yeah, vegetable juice. Maybe a little trend. I don't know. But the man could hit a baseball a long ways and was fun to watch.
Still got to hit it.
Still got to hit the baseball. But again, thank you guys for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you next week for episode number 7. Signing off. Shane Eames, thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's always
Have
a pleasure.
a great day, and everybody out there, have a great day in the Lord. I think I did that right.
Bingo.
Have a blessed one.